concrete. You don't know who's underneath it. What do you do?
Our technical rescue team is part of it is already here, and there's other units en route. It'll take time and heavy lifting equipment to slowly lift up the bridge, and it's a very strenuous and time-consuming
Situation. Time is precious, though.
Absolutely, time is precious. We don't know what we will find under the bridge once the bridge is lifted.
And that's very important to point out to people watching this, is that even the firefighters, there's the simply the unknown factor here right now. Once again, staying away from numbers, what are you being told about the severity of what happened?
I know that there were critically injured patients that have already been transported to the hospital. At the last understanding I had, we were at a level 1 MCI, I believe.
What does that mean?
That means there were at least 5 patients. I believe it was, while I was on my way here, raised to a level 2 MCI, which is more than 5 and less than 12. And again, we don't know what we will find under the bridge as the call proceeds.
Okay, so you go in there with heavy lifting equipment. If somebody is underneath there right now, what do you do? What do you do if people are trapped right now at this very moment?
We can't do anything until we can reach them and assess the situation, unfortunately. It's the same, like...
So, thank you guys for tuning in. We have a crazy, massive bridge. This is actually very close to where I live. It's about a 25-minute drive away from where I live. In fact, my mom's house is even closer to this place. It's actually a big-ass college called FIU, and this college has been under construction now for years because they're expanding more and more and more and more and more, because nowadays the college industry is a big inflationary bubble. Just like back during 2008, when right before the housing crisis happened and the economy went through a massive recession, housing, purchases, people buying houses was skyrocketing, and then suddenly the whole market crashed because there was an inflationary bubble. And of course, the experts are now saying that college is going to be the next big bubble. The college bubble is coming next. So you're going to see a lot of colleges under construction, expanding, and there will probably be a inflationary college bubble collapse in a few years. If you guys didn't know, student loan debt has actually surpassed credit card debt in the entire country, which is sad and messed up. So this is it's a breaking news right now, actually. Reports vary, maybe 5 people dead as a bridge collapsed. I've driven on that street, a gazillion times. That easily could have been me underneath that. As you can see, cars crushed. Luckily, the bridge was not open. It had only just been placed, and they were probably going to open it up to pedestrians, who knows, in a week or less. So luckily the bridge was not open yet, so nobody was stuck on it when it collapsed. But cars driving by, that's 8th Street, I'm very familiar with that, I've driven through there a million times. A lot of cars seem to have gotten crushed underneath, so hopefully the situation doesn't worsen. Yeah, it's crazy. FIU, again, this bridge collapsed right outside of FIU, Florida International University. And Florida International University, again, is just another one of those colleges that is expanding and expanding and expanding. In fact, just last year, FIU wanted to expand next door where the city's beloved youth fair has taken place for like the last 30 years or more. There's a little fair, comes to town every year. The city loves to come to it. People have their little, their little amusement park rides, and people love it, right? It's the annual fair. But the college, which is expanding, and this bridge is just one extension of the college's expansion during this college inflationary bubble that we're going through. This bridge here was just one part of the expansion. trying to make pedestrian crossing easier. And FIU, in fact, let me separate this here so we can have a little bit of dual stuff going on here. As the college expanded, it's even kicking out. Now FIU, the college, wants to kick out the beloved city's youth fair in a $150 million engineering center. And they want to go ahead and kick that out. So the colleges nowadays don't stop expanding. They don't stop expanding. And, you know, it's sad to see this bridge collapse. It's sad to see that in some ways this could be a tragic premonition to the college industry as a whole. Expanding. But it's all part of this tragic student loan debt crisis, which really has so many students are crushed by their student loan debt. And they'll try to say that it's about this and it's about that, but you know, there's a lot of greed has been implicated towards. I mean, look at that. That is absolutely terrifying right there. I mean, that's terrifying. A lot of greed has been implicated towards the college industries in recent years. A lot of greed has been thrown their way. A lot of allegations that they just expand off the backs of student and you know, debt enslaved students. And they say the expansion is because education is for your own good. But you know, I don't know if a lifetime of, you know, maliciously imposed debt by a bunch of bank sharks is good for young kids who just got out of high school. So again, this is the breaking news. A bridge collapsed, and you know, it's, you know, let's hope that the bridge didn't collapse because they're just throwing money out there and they're not doing their due diligence as the college expands. Let's hope that's not the case. Let's hope they're doing their due diligence. In fact, it was only just a few years ago where a separate college, ironically here in South Florida, their freaking parking garage like collapsed. And that was a whole, you know, crazy experience. So let's hope they're doing their due diligence when they're expanding. Just like the housing crisis, you know, back in 2008, the recession, you had all these expansions, people building all these new houses, people buying all these new houses with money that was popping out of thin air, and then the bubble popped and the reality set in, and it turned out that there was a massive recession afterwards, and many experts believe that the next recession is going to be caused by the student loan debt bubble. So let's hope that they're doing their due diligence when they expand. Let's hope it's not a rampant mad dash rat race to become bigger and bigger and bigger in its final, you know, in its final moments, because this is how industries tend to work. So again, this is crazy. I've driven right down this street a million times in my life. I mean, anybody local around here could have been the person underneath that bridge. So it's really crazy to see this. Hopefully it's not too bad. Hopefully there aren't too many casualties. But so far, last I checked, it was around 5 reported deaths so far and a few more injuries. Let me tell you something, guys. I mean, this could have been so much worse. Like 8th Street, that's called 8th Street. Right there, there's a ton of traffic in the morning and then in the late afternoon from people going to work. I mean, if that bridge had fallen in the middle of rush hour, I mean, there would have been a lot of cars underneath. There seems to be some cars underneath it, but there would have been a lot more cars. So let's tune back in here real quick.
Right now, I told you earlier that Miami-Dade Fire Rescue was asking for additional help. We're now correcting that. This is a fluid situation. You know, this happens during breaking news. Things change, so I want to just tell everybody Miami-Dade Fire Rescue is not requesting additional doctors and nurses to respond there to the scene at FIU. So if you heard me say that earlier, you are not being urged to go. What they right now need is organization and to get to those people who are trapped. If you're now joining us live here on 7 News, it is a little after 3 o'clock, about an hour and 15 minutes ago. This pedestrian bridge there at the Sweetwater campus at Florida International University that is brand spanking new collapsed for whatever reason. A live picture is to your left there of the aerial view, and to your right is video of this collapse. Again, it happened a little more than an hour ago. It was not officially open for pedestrians, even though it was unveiled on Saturday. You can see the orange plastic fencing on the bottom, but there were plenty of cars underneath this very busy roadway, 8 lanes of traffic. If you've ever been in that area, you know that 8th Street and Tamiami Trail is very, very busy. And when that bridge collapsed, maybe there were no pedestrians on it crossing. There might have been some construction workers on the top there, but there were definitely drivers below. When this bridge pancaked on top of each other, the 2 sections pancaked, the large pieces of concrete smashing onto the vehicles below. Several people are dead, we know at this point. At least 1 person has been transported to Kendall Regional Medical Center as a trauma alert. This is a 950-ton span of bridge that collapsed. And to your right is sort of I'm not sure what we're looking at to the right, but anyway, to your left is a live picture. To your right is, okay, ground pictures. Thank you, Jeff. But the challenge right now to this catastrophic event is getting this 950-ton span of concrete off the cars that are trapped. And as Jeff has been telling you, and all of our reporters have been telling you, the technical rescue team there has set up a command post, and their main mission right now is search and rescue devices to actually get to anybody who may be trapped underneath and get them help that they desperately need.
And that's why our chopper had to pull back. Again, the noise from the rotors on the helicopter might be creating some ambient noise, so helicopters have pulled back so they can go ahead and use those devices to see if anyone is in fact underneath that bridge and trying to call out for help here at this hour. But we talk about this structure, again, this pedestrian bridge that is designed to connect Sweetwater to the FIU campus, first of its kind in the way in which it was constructed off-site and then brought in over the weekend, and it was again lifted on Saturday. I believe right now we have Rosh Lowe establishing his ground picture. Talked to him on the phone just a short while ago. Rosh, if you can, we don't have Rosh. Okay, we do have him. Rosh, what can you see from your vantage point right now?
Okay, so this is what I was talking about. Let me step out of the way about Southwest 8th Street being closed down, and you can see a really active situation with Miami-Dade Fire bringing in more units, as we just told you on the phone. You can still see some private ambulances down there, as well as Miami-Dade police. And in the distance, you can see the bridge that we're talking about right there. So they have moved us back about 7 or 8 blocks, at least initially here, as they are trying to go in there and to remove all of that rubble. We spoke with Miami-Dade Fire Rescue, and what they told me, just to repeat this information in case you weren't with us at that moment, they told me that they wouldn't really know the totality of what is going on here until they're able to remove all of that concrete that is on the ground. Obviously, these are very anxious moments for people who called them and said that somebody was injured, extremely helpless, because even for firefighters to a certain extent, because you simply cannot remove all of this concrete to see exactly what they are dealing with until they can bring in some of the heavy machinery, heavy lifting equipment to get the concrete out of there. We do have public information officers from both Miami-Dade Fire Rescue and Miami-Dade Police en route to the scene at an area that is a bit closer on the FIU campus. So,
all right. So anyways, guys, I mean, sorry if the quality of the stream just kind of cut low for a moment here. Yeah. So again, this is the crazy situation that's ongoing right now. I just wanted to kind of rant a little bit because I have seen the college's expansion here locally, right here in Miami. I've seen the expansion now for years. There was even a big controversy just recently because the college wanted to even expand and take over its little neighboring property where the youth fair was located. There's actually a youth fair that's been a staple, a beloved part of South Florida's history now for like 30 years or more. It's called the Dade County Youth Fair. But the college, FIU, the one responsible for this bridge that, you know, unfortunately and tragically just collapsed, FIU wanted to kick the youth fair out, the beloved youth fair. They wanted to kick it out because the college just keeps expanding more and more. And if you've been anywhere in South Florida and you've driven by FIU, you've seen that the cranes and the construction is nonstop. Every month there's like a new building being erected. They're just expanding and expanding and expanding like a big inflationary bubble. And in many ways that does reflect the coming student loan debt bubble that's on the horizon. So I just wanted to get that out because I do think it's something to take into account when you're seeing these kind of tragic expansions that end up harming people. Here we have this, this pretty terrible incident right here. Again, happened right here in South Florida. I've driven down that street a million times in my life. I could have been underneath that right now for all we know. It could happen to anybody. And it's a crazy situation. It's a crazy situation, and let's hope that greed isn't getting in the way of people's safety as the college expands. They wanted to kick the local fair out because they have to take up, I mean, I don't know, how much more expansion do you want? But again, just like the housing crisis, it was a big bubble back in 2008. Everybody was getting a house with money that didn't exist, and then pop goes the weasel, and the economic collapse ensues, and then everyone gets screwed over by a big recession in 2008. Well, a lot of experts believe that the new recession is going to be the student loan debt crisis. And a lot of times when you see an industry quickly, rapidly expanding, sometimes it's a sign that it's in its final moments. And hopefully when colleges expand nonstop, they do their due diligence and don't just hire shitty companies to build things, and then they don't do their due diligence because they're just worried about making more money and expanding. Let's put people's security and safety first. So again, guys, that is the breaking news. It's pretty crazy, but hopefully the injuries are minimized. And thank you guys for tuning in. I'm gonna go ahead and end this live stream now. Take care, guys, and be careful out there and watch out. It's crazy. Actually, you know what? Before I go, let me jump into the chat. Let me jump into the chat here. Let me jump into the chat. Yeah, let's do a little chat here first. Yeah, you're right. A few years ago, there actually was a parking garage that collapsed here in South Florida. There was a parking garage that collapsed at another college, actually, and the college, the whole freaking parking garage just came crashing down. And coincidence? It was another college? I don't know. Hopefully, they're doing their due diligence as they expand. But again, here's some more looks at the chaos unfolding right now. This is a video that was posted recently from a little hotel.
Literally,
Not a hotel,
just
A worker was on top of it when it fell.
living, and the bridge at FIU just collapsed out of nowhere. There's cars stuck under there. Workers are hurt. They're helping workers.
I mean, if you look around the property, like there's cranes everywhere. Everything is they're just erecting and building, and they don't stop building. It's pretty wild.
They're pulling workers out. There's definitely people stuck under 8th Street.
So anyways, that's Guy Ocho right there. So let's, I mean, yeah, let me get this separate tab open so we can see what's going on while I do the chat. There is our chat. Yeah, just gonna get this here. Yeah, crazy shit. Again, hopefully there aren't too many injuries. Hopefully there aren't too many dead. But
with anybody, or to ascertain if there's anybody in any of those vehicles that's underneath there, and find out if there's a life-saving need. That's the primary focus right now.
Yeah, some earlier photos that came out, they clearly showed people. Not people, but you can see cars just genuinely crushed. Not good, not good at all. Yeah, exactly. Students live across the street, and so they built the bridge. The idea is that they want to expand to Sweetwater. Well, I don't know if they were planning to expand to Sweetwater. You might be right. I didn't hear anything about that. Wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me if they even wanted to cross 8th Street into Sweetwater just to expand more. I assumed that the reason they were building that was to get to that little apartment building where a lot of students stay. But you might be right. Maybe they were expanding into Sweetwater, which would just be crazy. Wow, that's crazy, RC. That's crazy. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. Just it gets to a point where it's like, just stop expanding so much. Like, chill out. I mean, is it really that important? Man, I mean, oh, yeah, like, it's just crazy, man. I mean, by the time the 2020 election comes around, student loan debt is going to be it's going to be one of the biggest political issues, because it's going to be directly tied into the next recession bubble. The next economic recession bubble is going to be tied right into the student loan debt crisis, which is sort of like a reckoning of sorts. It's a day of reckoning, because, you know, for so long, you know, if you don't go to college, you're considered a dropout, you're considered stupid. And for some people, going to college is just a way to make yourself feel like you're smarter than others because you're afraid of being called a dropout, being, you know, ridiculed. So it is sort of an envy-based industry where people go there out of fear and envy more than they do out of legitimate good intention. So it is sadly, the economic student loan bubble is sadly, tragically, sort of like a reckoning of sorts. And you know, a lot of people have tried to put out warnings saying that the student loan debt crisis could be real. It could be a big issue, but nobody seems to be really heeding the warnings. And when 2020 rolls around, it's going to be a big political talking point. Everyone's going to be talking about it. And it's going to be to the point where, in some ways, having gone to college is going to be embarrassing. It's going to be embarrassing to say that you went to college. It's going to be embarrassing to say you have a degree. I mean, not in every case, but I think generally the stigma that going to college is a smart and good thing and let me show off the degree, that stereotype is going to shift over to being a little bit embarrassing. Some people are going to be embarrassed to say they went to college. Some people are going to be embarrassed to say that they got a degree, because what they're really saying is, I'm massively buried in debt, and I helped kick off the next great recession in the United States of America because of the massive student loan debt bubble crisis. Somebody writes, college is liberal indoctrination, Chris. They need the red pill. Well, a lot of colleges are liberal indoctrination, and that's kind of sad, really. So here they were, you know, celebrating the erection of the bridge just the other day, I believe, and a few days later, and you know, yeah, there it is. And you know, for a lot of people involved, this bridge probably signified expansion. It probably signified, you know, the success of the college, a thriving business. And, you know, when that's really all you're thinking about, thriving business, you got to be careful that it doesn't end up in this terrible tragedy right here. A lot of people are just driving, minding their own business. They don't even go to college, but this big major street was a victim of the college's construction operation. So, I mean, look at that. You better hope there was nobody in the back seat, because you are absolutely in a bad... It's crazy, man, because I'm very familiar with this whole street. I mean, I've driven by there, like so many people here in South Florida, driven by there a billion times. You know, back since I was a damn young kid all the way up to now. Then you see shit like this, and it's like, damn. Man, that could be anybody. Luckily, I don't know anybody personally who goes to the college right now. So I can't think of anybody I know personally who might have been affected by this, but yeah, just not good. Just not good. Somebody are actually working a job that matters so they can make green pieces of paper so they can pretend that they have value. Like, do you know how many businesses and industries are just pointless pyramid schemes? Like Herbalife. You know, Herbalife is basically a pyramid scheme. There's just so many businesses that are just completely arbitrary ways to make money. You got to find a way to get those green pieces of paper. And I think that there's a lot of negative consequences when you're fucking selling stupid snake oil Herbalife products. And hey, if you sell Herbalife, fine. You're not hurting anybody. You're not forcing anybody to buy your products. But if, you know, it's like, you know, unnecessarily expensive brand name clothing, and there's just a lot of arbitrariness in the economy. The universal basic income and a free Netflix account, and that will solve so many problems. People who don't have the ambition to go out in life and make money, they'll just stay home. They'll just stay home. They'll fucking have their universal little basic income, very simple, maybe 30 grand a year, all right? And a Netflix account, man, you won't have people think you got to force companies to pay. But
to go to work, kids are getting out of school, you know, even college kids are getting out of school, heading to 6 vehicles. That doesn't seem, it could have been so much worse.
And you can think of this, there are 8 lanes of traffic, 4 in each direction, plus you have 2 turn lanes there to the entrance to FIU, so that's 10 lanes of traffic that could have been involved with this when it came down. I would say that time of day probably played a big part of it, because we are not quite into the, well, we're getting closer to the rush hour now, but it wasn't quite rush hour, kind of a little bit after.
Which is bonkers. Come on, you know the stream is not complete. Go green now. Come on, live stream health. Go green. Sorry guys, I think I just need to buy a damn PC. I got to get off this laptop and just buy a PC. It's probably just processing power that's causing this. Anyways, so yeah, sorry about that, guys. The stream is kind of glitching out a little bit. I'm not exactly sure what's causing it, but yeah. Okay, well, anyways, thank you guys for tuning in. Pretty much covered the gist of it. Thank you guys for tuning in. Hopefully there's a very minimal number of casualties and deaths in this situation. Very tragic. And it seems like the health of the stream might be back. But yeah, crazy situation, pretty terrible situation. I really don't have too much else to say. Yes, I'll probably get a haircut soon. The last lady who cut my hair did an absolutely terrible job. It's like, what do you do? Like, what do you do when, like, the lady doesn't cut your hair right? Like, fuck, what do you tell her? It's like, oh, you completely fucked my hair up. I'm not going to give you a tip either. Like, what do you do, bro? Okay, guys. Thanks a lot for tuning in. Take care of yourselves. Stream is out.